Hello and welcome to a tutorial on how to set up a 12 Sky server. First, I want to thank everyone who has released these files, and a special thanks to Scarface for providing details on how some of the things work and some very important files, including how to get the XP bar to work correctly and how to get normal accounts to be able to log in without disconnecting. Firstly, I've downloaded the files that you can find in the description below. I've extracted the files and put them on the root to the C drive. What I'm going to go through today is how to set up the server, connect to the server, run events such as 9-tier, creating an account, showing how items and skills are shown in the database and how I've got some of those values out to make the accounts with all the elites and stuff. And then finally how to configure the server so that other people can connect to it. So how to configure the firewall and how to change the IP address of the client so that it can connect, so that you could host the server on Azure, for example. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install a Microsoft SQL Server, which can be found in the SQL 2022 folder. So I'm going to mount the ISO file here, and then I'm going to run the setup. I'm then going to click installation and then new standalone installation. Now I'm going to click next because I'm installing a developer version. Accept the license. Uncheck Azure because I don't need any of those extensions installed. The only thing you need to check here is the database engine services. So check that. I can leave everything else. I need to use a default instance, so leave the name and everything as is. I need to check mixed mode, and then I need to set the password of the SA account, which is in the README file. So if I go back up, I've got the SA password, set it to this. I will show you how to change this, but to just get everything going really quickly, if you use that password, everything will kind of hook together. I'm then also going to add my user in so that I can connect to the server as well. And then I'm going to install. This will take a few minutes, so I'm going to pause the video. Now that the SQL Server has installed, I can close out of everything and I can eject the mounted disk. What I need to do now is to check the configuration of the server. So if I go to the SQL 22 Configuration Manager and I go to SQL Server Network Configuration, and I can see here that the TCP/IP is disabled. This needs to be enabled. So if you right click on it, enable, it will tell you need to restart the server. We'll do that in a second. You can also check the settings. So if we go double click on it, click on IP addresses, scroll to the bottom, you'll see that it's running on port 1433 and IP address 127.0.0.1. This is correct. So if I now go to SQL Server Services and right click on the SQL Server, and I can click Restart. Now that's done, I can exit out, go back to my folder. So within the SQL 2022 folder, I've got SQL Server Management Studio. I need to install that as well. So double click on it and install. This will also take a few minutes, so I'm going to pause the video again. Now that's installed, I'm going to start SQL Server Management Studio. So just search for SSMS. And then I'll connect to the server. If you installed SQL a different way, you may not have enabled mixed mode because it might not let you if you installed a dev version. So all you need to do is connect to the server, right click on it, click properties, click security, and check you'll be on Windows authentication mode, just change it to SQL Server and Windows authentication mode. And then if you go to security logins, your SA user will be disabled. So if you right click on it, properties, set the password to the password as in the README file, and then change the status to grant and enable. Now we need to restore the database backups that are within the 2022 server database backups file. So to do that, you right click on databases, restore database, click on device, click on the three dots and add, find the folder, so it's in the root of the C, which is partly why I did it. It makes this easy. Sky SQL database backups, and then we just need to go through each of them, so one at a time. If you need to change the location, you can relocate the files, but the default should be correct. And click OK. So we need to do that for each database. So I'm just going to quickly do that. I've now restored all of the databases, so I'm now at a point where I can run the server and I can connect to it. So let's do that. So if I go back to my 12 Sky 1 folder and I go into the jhserver, you'll see some batch files. We'll use these in a minute, but to start with, you'll want to go into manage, and go into manage again. Here are 6 folders. These are the server tasks that need to be running before you can run any map. So if we go into S01 and we go into configuration, go and open up the server info, you'll see a number of settings. You'll notice that it's running on port 127001, and you'll notice here it's connecting to port 1433. Now this is the SQL config, hence why it needs to be on the default. And then here's the SA user, so it's logging in with SA and its password, and then it's connecting to this. So this is where you can change stuff. So if you didn't want to use the default password, you can change it. I've never tried changing the account to not be the SA account, but in theory you could change it, and you just need to make sure that the user has permission to the databases it needs. This is the exact same setup for all 6 of them. So they each have their own config file that you would need to change. Now to run the server, all you need to do is run these application files. So if I run that, and now that's running. So I need to do that for all 6. And last but not least, there we go. So now the server is actually running, and all of these should have booted up without issue, without crashing. If I go back to jhserver and I now click into zone, here's all the maps, and the maps have a master config, again connecting to 127001, and then within each zone they also have a config for the port number is the main one here that you need to be concerned about later on. So to run a zone, you just run the TS zone here, and this is a different file to what was in the existing video that I did on this. This TS zone allows normal accounts to log in and doesn't boot them off. So if I was to run this, now zone 1 is running, and now the server is good. So what I can do now is connect to the server and show you it running. So if I go into the 12 Sky client English and the DLQ, I need to run this as admin on a normal computer. I'm on a server, so I actually don't need to. This will show grayed out start game. If you click it, it will boot the game up. It's okay. Now this will be very laggy because I'm on a server and it won't be using my graphics card because I can't pass that through. So if I log in, and I'm going to log into a user that I've made, so its username is TPJ and its password is test with a capital T. And here's my 3 characters maxed out. The pin is 6 ones, so you just hold that one. And here's my 3 topped out characters. So if I go on to zone, as I boosted up zone 1, I can go on to Thomas. And I can connect in. I said it would be laggy, it's very laggy. And here's my user with max elites and items and stuff. Let's walk on. So that's the server working. Now, to get the events to work, such as 9-tier, you want to then go back to the TrialScribe1 folder, into the jhserver, you'll see tools. Within here, you've got the jhtools. Now there is an English, there are instructions, so this was in Chinese, I think. I've translated it to English. That will explain all this. But simply within jhtools, if you run the system tools, you get a load of configs that you can change. So the set battle system, if you enter 0 and click OK, that has now started the timers for your events. So some of the events are hard-coded times, so such as 9-tier, they will always start on a certain day at normally 2100 hours or 9 PM for you Americans. Same with Heglo, same idea. You can send notices to the whales, so if you remember, the GMs would send stuff. So if you 000, say hi, send OK, go into here, send hi. Now for XP and drop rate, that's a set event. So again, if you set 0 for the world zone 0, so that will fire into the all. Number 1 is for XP, and then the value. So 10 would be normal times, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. As far as I can tell, 4 times is the most. So if I click OK, so then the whole of the game is now at 4 times XP. And the number 2 is for drop rate, and the same idea. So this would give the whole world 4 times drop rate. And that's that. Now let's show how to create a brand new account. We'll make a normal account to prove that you can also log in without disconnecting. So if I go into accounts database here, go onto tables, and go into member info, and edit the top 200. If I go up to here, and you can show criteria panel, I could filter to my user that we were just logged in, which is TPJ, and here's my user. So what we need to do is create a new user. So at the bottom here, I can make TPJ33. I need to set its password, and the password is hashed. So if I go back to my README file, and I scroll down to here, I explain how to make a user, and I have a link to make a hashed password. So it uses the MD5 hash. So if I open up the browser, don't let Microsoft have all my information, go to that URL, I can then enter in my password, so go test again, generate, and there's my MD5. So if I copy that, go back into here and paste it. Now the M-user sort is the account type, so 1 is for a GM account, 0 is for a normal account. So I'll make a normal one here, and then block info 0. Tcache is your AP points, so I can give myself 1000 AP, and basically I can leave the rest empty. So if I now connect TPJ33 and test, it will ask me to set a pin. Set it all as ones again, and there we go. I'm now fully logged in. So let me create a character. Again, I've only got zone 1 running, so we'll go back to here. Test ABC. Click OK, and I can connect in. Now I'll try and get to killing a mob, but I'll turn down my graphics. So I can actually see a bit more. So the server's running on 4 times XP, so I should get a significant amount from killing 1 mob. And you'll notice, of course, I haven't been disconnected yet. So this is just acting as a normal user. Right, now let's say I want to give this account some items. How do I update to give this one? So firstly, I want to log out, because when you log out, my current changes get persisted back to the database, and it would overwrite any changes I've made to the database. So if I now close down member info and instead go into game01 database, tables, then you've got avatar info. So same as before, right click on it, edit top 200 rows, open the criteria panel, and let's filter to the user tpj33. You'll notice here's my user, test ABC, playtime 2 minutes, and here's all my config. If you scroll along, you have a-equip value, and then a bit further along, you'll have a-skill and a-skill hotkey. So these are the main ones that you want to look at changing to give items. If I go back into my TileSky1 folder, go into documents, there's a number of files here. Now I'm on the server, so I don't have Excel installed in it, so I'm going to go back to my normal computer and open up the items file. Drag it in here, and you'll see a number of tabs at the bottom. So what I've done is I pulled out things that I think are useful for everyone. So here's all the items I've mapped out, and here's all the skills that I've mapped out. And this is how I've produced these. So at the top I've got the a-equip. The a-equip value here just gives me a maxed out, whatever I'm wearing gets maxed out to 120 CS12. So if I go back to my user here, scroll along, and change the a-equip value to that. Oh, it's not happy with it because I've copy pasted it wrong. Click inside the cell, and then copy it. Excel adds the extra character or something. So there we go. So the a-equip value, I'm going to give myself my maxed out elites. So I'm going to blade, copy that, go back, change that value. I then also want to give myself all the skills that I might want. So if I copy the skill value in a skill on here, go back to the server, go along, and on a skill, copy that in. Now if I was to log in again, you'll notice I've got a few extra gifts on my back, but I am still just level 1. So that bypasses any level requirements. And if I look at my skills, I've got a whole load of skills as well. So if I now go kill a mob, instantly kill it. Now, if I want to make my character M33 max out, that's also very easy to do. Execute I need to refresh the SQL here because I've logged in and I've made some changes and I've logged out. So I need to update that here. And then if I go to the README file, scroll down a little, I have some XP values. So 145 and 2000, well, whatever number that is. So if I copy that, and then if I scroll along, you'll see a level. So if I set that to 145, and then my XP to that big value. If I now log in, it's connected. If I log in, I'm now M33. Now it might boot me out because my stat points aren't correct now. I haven't actually ever tested it with a normal account. So if I wanted to mess around with other stats, I've got the stat values here. I've got like HP elixirs, chi elixirs. If I scroll along a bit further, there's strength elixirs and deck elixirs and stuff. So this is where you can mess around with the user. So I'll quickly show how I got all these values for the skills and stuff. So if I copy out my A skill on this character that I just made, so I copy that out, and I go to my documents folder, I've got an application here called TS1 item split. If I run that, and I'm doing scales here, so I'm going to press 2, and I copy paste that value in. I've split it up. So how it works is each scale is 6 digits, and there's 10 scales per tab, so 60 per tab, and I split them up. So you've got slot 1 to 10 on each of the tabs on the scale. And then the same idea, if I run it again, this time do the equipment, copy my equipment out, equip, paste that in. Again, this is split up. I think it's 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. Yeah, 8 numbers per item. And then I know what I've got equipped. So then I could split them out, see where they are, go into the game, see what that item is, and then that's how I came up with these values on here. So then you can piece them together again, and then you can set the value in the database to what you want. Now the final thing I'm going to show is how to change the IP address of the client, so what the IP address the client is trying to connect to, and how what settings you need to change on the server to allow that connection in. So firstly, on the server, I'm going to change the firewall. So I need to allow or open up some ports to allow the connection in. So if I go to Windows Defender on this, advanced settings, and inbound rules. So I'm going to make a new inbound rule. And this will be on a port. And it's a TCP port. Now if I go back to the README, I have the ports that I need to allow in. Connecting. So here we go. So these are the ports. So it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 11,099, and then a port range. And the port range is for the maps. So this is the map ports, and then these are different ports that the client connects in to log in and stuff like that. So the actual rule is at the end here. So if I copy this value and paste it into here, go to next, I'm allowing the connection. Go to next, next, give it a name, so I'll just call it TS, and finish. So that's now enabled. So that's the server config changed, and that's basically all I need to do. On the firewall, what I need to do next is find the IP of this server. So that's quite easy for me because I'm running this on Hyper-V. So if I go out of the server and pull over my Hyper-V manager, on the server, if I click networking, you'll see my IP address for this server is 172.24.137.169. So that's pretty good. Let's update the client at this point to try and connect to that server. There will be some other settings on the server we'll mess around with, but let's do the client now that I have the IP. So if we go to the Trial Sky client English, so this is on my local PC now, not on the server. There's a file here called opinion.dll. I would take or you should take a backup of this file. So I already have a backup in here of it before you edit it, because what we're going to do is some hex editing here. So if you haven't already, you should go away and install Visual Studio Code, and then you should also install the Visual Studio Code plugin, the hex plugin. And this is all within the README file that you can find these links. So you've got the hex editor here, and then you just Google for Visual Studio Code, that'll be the top link. So once you've got that installed, you can then right click on the DLL, open it with Visual Studio Code, click open anyway, and click hex editor. And then this is the hex of the file. So this is very much the raw code of it. If I then search for 127.0.0, it will find one value, which is the IP address. I then need to change this to the server IP address. So that value was 172.24.136.169. So if I go to here and change this to 172, if I actually Actually, I'm changing it 172.24.136.169. So then save that and close out of it. So that's now updated. This client here is now going to be attempting, so if I run it, it will be attempting to connect to my server. Now it may be able to see it. I'm not 100% sure at this point, but I wouldn't actually be able to successfully work everything. So yeah, I can't see it quite yet, and that's fine. So if I try it again, I feel like I should be able to connect. So let's try again. Well, it should be able to see the server, not so much that I'll actually be able to get into the map. No, it's not playing ball at the moment, that's fine. So let's go on to the server. Exit out of that. So what I've got at the moment is it's all listening on or expecting connections from the 127 IP. So I'm going to close the server down real quick. So what I need to do is change where it's expecting connections from, and primarily I need to change that on the zone. So within the zone file, within the jhserver, you've got the config, and within the config, you've got the server info. And here you've got 127.0.0.1. I need to change this to my UIP address. So if I change this on all of these and save. If I then go back to here, start the server, so we used a batch file this time. Should just run them individually. Okay, let's go again, start server. There we go. That's all 6 of those are running. And we'll start zone 1 again. Go back to my client. Run it. So I've got the connection there now. I've got a 5 to 10 minute DC. That's fine. I'll go to the other account. See if that's all the config I need. Yep. So I'm now connected to the server from my client, or from my local PC. So the equivalent here would be hosting a server on Azure. Azure would give you an IP address. You add in the firewall rule. You'd need to configure that in the Azure firewall as well. Change the IP address and the hex of the client, get people to download that client, and then be able to see the server connecting with their user. In fact, I'll show you how to fix the 5 to 10 minute DC, because that was quite a common one back in the day, if anyone remembers. So if I go back to account on the database, and then I go to member info, edit, ID, so I look for the one that's messed up. So you'll see I've got an online character checkers 1. It's claiming that I'm online. If I set that to 0, now that should hopefully be enough to let me in. If not, I'll just need to restart the server files. So this is also quite a common thing where it's not connected back up when you log out. I'm not 100% sure why it does that sometimes, but all you have to do is restart the game. It's a minor issue. So let's see if it will let me in now. Go. So let's go over some things that aren't right, or that I would like to know how to do, but I don't. So things like within the herb master, it doesn't have pills in here. I don't know how to edit that at all. Would love to know how to do that. the other issue you have is you've got TC, but you've got no AV portal. Even with AV time, the portal wouldn't come up. But there is the AV map, so you can start the AV map and you can move to it. So if I was to go, I forget which map AV is, but if I can go to Yang, for example, go to the server. Yang is 38. This is zone 38. Start that up. Move zone 38. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty much it of the main thing. So basically, if anyone knows how to change configs of files or edit files, there's weird ones like the spawn files. It would be cool to be able to change them, but I can't work out how to edit them in a weird format. Yeah. But I hope this has been helpful. A lot of the pain points I've dealt with, and I've pulled them all together so you don't have to deal with them. And I hope people have fun with this. It's old game now. It can run on pretty much anything. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening. Ooh, yes, there is one other thing. The marble skills, if anyone remembers way back in the day, they are not long range. So if someone has a patch for that to make it so we have the long range skills, that would be awesome. Currently they're very old, 2 meters away, just like a blade, and everyone else gets long range multis, so that's a bit of a pain. The one hit is long range, as it was always, but the multi way back when it was shortened and they patched it. So if anyone's got a patch for that, that would be awesome.